impact that it is having on food for the world. So when you're home thinking, what is this all about? Just think about when I was hungry, you fed me, in the Gospel of Matthew. It also is so pleased that Mr. Meeks, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, was with us because we talked about sanctions.
All right, guys, so as you saw there, that is Nancy Pelosi quoting Bible verses on the House floor as justification for us sending $40 billion, yes, 40 with a B, billion, dollars to Ukraine for aid, okay? And you guys all know how it goes with the Democrats, okay? Particularly the progressive left. They're not necessarily Bible-thumping Christians, but they love pulling out Bible verses to justify the things that they want, even though most of the time when, Republicans want to enact things based off the Bible, they say, oh, no, we're not a religious country, right? You're not supposed to do that, right? The Bible doesn't matter. But apparently the Bible matters when they want what they want and they're trying to justify the things that they want, okay? Nancy Pelosi, what I find interesting here, the Democrats and the Republicans as well, too, they're also complicit in this, the Biden administration. They want to spend $40 billion of taxpayer money to send to Ukraine while we have parents in this country that can't find formula, baby formula, for their infants because we have a supply chain shortage. Take a look.
11-month-old Raylan Houston is happy with her bottle now, but you should have seen her a few months ago when she had no choice but to drink baby formula that hurt her stomach.
She was crying, she wouldn't drink it, so then of course she wasn't full and she was just very irritable.
Raylan had to stop drinking her regular brand of baby formula a few months ago. A recall of some lots of Similac and supply chain issues have caused widespread formula shortages. Her parents couldn't find the brand near their home in Gainesville, Georgia. It wasn't online. Friends and family couldn't find it where they live either.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying when that's the only true source of nutrition that your baby gets, because it would get to the point where you go to a store and you almost cry.
Nationwide, 43% of baby formula stock is gone. Parents are desperate,
leaving us with only a few options that work with our baby's sensitive tummies.
This dad made a TikTok about searching for formula for his new twins in San Diego, saying he's nervous and scared about what will happen in the coming weeks.
Yeah, so I use CNN's coverage of the baby formula shortage, right? And leave it up to CNN to be woke about it, right? Featuring two dads with twins, okay? But hey, they're feeling the pain, right? Even the wokes, right, are feeling the pain from this shortage. I wonder what Pete Buttigieg is thinking right now. The guy that's, in charge of the supply chain crisis, he also has two twins as well, newborns. And again, I wonder, is he feeling the pain from not being able to get them and provide them formula? I mean, he can't use alternative, more natural methods of feeding his baby, okay? So I wonder how he's feeling right now. Probably like a whole lot of these other people. Right. So with that being said, while we have this shortage of baby formula, our politicians, again, seem to be more focused on the war in Ukraine. As a part of the $40 billion that the House just voted to send to Ukraine to support the war over there, they're claiming that some of that money is going to go to address food shortages around the world. Okay, approximately $5 billion. However, it doesn't seem like we're trying to address the actual food shortages here in the United States. Again, specifically this baby formula crisis that we have that I don't think is linked to Ukraine, right? Again, it just goes to show you guys where the priorities of our politicians are at. They're definitely not over here in America. Okay, America last. Ukraine first, right? Everywhere else in the world first. So that being said, there are some Republicans with a spine in Congress that have spoken out against this and basically are saying what we all know about these big multi-billion, sometimes $1 trillion spending bills. We don't know what the hell is in it, right? Take a look.
Madam Speaker, the gentleman from Maryland talked about protecting this institution but we got a $40 billion bill at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't had a chance to review the bill. My staff is poring over the pages trying to see what's in it. You want to talk about the institution? You want to talk about standing up alongside Ukraine? Why don't we actually have a debate on the floor of the People's House instead of the garbage of getting a $40 billion bill at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not paid for, without having any idea what's really in it, with a massive slush fund that goes to the State Department, $13 billion, $8 billion for the Economic Support Fund, $110 million for embassy security. We've got $40 billion that is unpaid for, and you want to sit here and lecture this body about what we're going to do or not do about standing alongside Ukraine? Why don't we talk about the American people who are hurting, the wide open borders, the inflation that's killing people, the jobs that people can't get because of the cost of goods and services in this country? Sitting here and being lectured to when I don't even have time to look at a $40 billion unpaid bill. I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I rise in opposition to the Ukrainian supplemental bill. $40 billion. But there's no baby formula for American mothers and babies. An unknown amount of money to the CIA in the Ukraine supplemental bill, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers. $54 million in COVID spending in Ukraine, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers. $900 million for nonprofits and organizations in Ukraine, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers.
Yeah, so Republicans, the ones with a spine and a backbone, are actually standing up against this and making a great point. They're saying, listen, how are we sending all this money to Ukraine when mothers can't even find baby formula, right? We don't even have baby formula in the U.S., right? I can imagine that with that $40 billion, I'm pretty sure that we could fix our supply chain issues when it comes to baby formula and making sure that babies can get fed. Okay, I'm pretty sure we could do that with the money. But you guys know what the Democrat response was to bringing up the fact that we're sending money to Ukraine, money that we don't have, while we have mothers that can't get baby formula for their infants. Apparently, according to Democrats, that is a Putin talking point. Take a look.
Here's a formula for the destruction of democracy, repeating Putin's propaganda and disinformation and appeasing imperialist assaults on sovereign nations.
Now, again, you guys heard that. I want you to understand what Jamie Ratkins is saying here, right? He basically is mocking parents that need baby formula, saying, here's a formula for the destruction of democracy. And again, these people don't really care about democracy. I mean, considering how they support intimidating Supreme Court justices. But a formula for the destruction of democracy is bringing up the fact that we have problems here in America that need to be solved before we think about sending money that we don't have to another country to support a war, right? That we don't really have anything to do with. Yeah, again, this is what these politicians think about the American people, right? This is what they think, okay? He just put it flat out in the open for you to let you know I don't give a damn about these hungry babies, right? That can't get food, okay? That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. So with that being said, I do want to read a little bit about this package that just got passed in the House, because there's no guarantee that it's going to pass the Senate. And I want you guys to get a little bit more information about what is in there, even though it's impossible to really know. They put the bill on the floor to vote before anybody even knew what was in it, before people could even read it. Again, par for the course when it comes to these corrupt bills. But I want to read about more details anyway, so that you guys get a better understanding of what to expect going forward here. The House passed legislation to send $40 billion in emergency aid to Ukraine and U.S. allies in the region, but objections from Republicans in the Senate could slow its progress to President Biden's desk. House lawmakers voted 368 to 57 to approve the legislation late Tuesday with the support of all Democrats and a majority of Republicans. Again, it's a damn shame that a majority of Republicans voted for this. The package includes more than $18.7 billion in military and security aid, both to Ukraine and to backfill U.S. defense supplies that have been distributed. Among other things, the legislation calls for nearly $8.8 billion in economic and budgetary assistance for Kyiv and spends money to settle refugees in Europe and the U.S. It would also send $5 billion around the world to address food shortages caused by the war. Again, I wonder how much of that $5 billion is going towards baby formula here in the United States, right? I wonder how much. I guarantee none of it is. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, after briefing Mr. Biden on her recent trip to Poland and Ukraine, said House Democrats are moving forward quickly with the aid because of the urgency that we saw. Mrs. Pelosi said she discussed 4 issues with the president: security, sanctions, humanitarian assistance, and economic assistance. Okay, so I find this to be interesting because all these politicians went and traveled into a war zone, right? Isn't Kyiv supposed to be a war zone? Isn't Kyiv supposed to be under attack? All these politicians, including Jill Biden, the wife of the president, showed up to a war zone, right? I find that to be fascinating, okay? Because if I was a politician, I don't think I would be traveling to Ukraine in the middle of what is supposed to be a war going on over there, right? And then they come back to the U.S. and say, what we saw was so bad that we need to spend $40 billion, right? But you set foot over there. None of you guys dressed in any type of army paraphernalia or anything like that, or any type of protective equipment. You dress like you're going to, like, I don't know, a business meeting or something, right? Rather than entering a war zone. So again, I find this stuff to be fascinating here. So I'm going to read a little bit more here and then I'll be done. Support for aid to Ukraine as it battles invading Russian forces has broad bipartisan backing in Congress, but some Republicans have expressed weariness about spending more money without further oversight. Congress provided Ukraine earlier this year with $13.6 billion in military, humanitarian, and economic aid as a part of a broader spending bill covering the first 2 months of the war. That money is nearly exhausted. Quote, this is an enterprise that almost everybody is in favor of. Having said that, as always, the devil's in the details. Senator James Rich, a Republican of Idaho, said, some lawmakers have expressed concern about the amount of money going to refugees or want to know how Ukraine will handle the influx of aid money and how the food aid could be distributed in a timely manner. The aid package will need 60 votes to advance in the Senate, which is split 50-50 between the parties. Alabama Senator Richard Shelby, the top Republican on the appropriations panel, said there was no agreement. He said that he wanted to pass aid as quickly as we can, but make sure we're doing the right thing. Okay, so here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. What I find to be fascinating here is that there was an uproar from the left when Elon Musk took $40 billion of his own money, right? His own money to buy Twitter, right? But there's no outrage when Congress is taking $40 billion of our money, right? Everybody's money, taxpayer money, to send to Ukraine to support a war, right? There's no outrage over that, right? Again, we've already sent $13 billion, and I'm not saying we shouldn't help Ukraine. I'm not saying we shouldn't support Ukraine, but $40 billion, $40 billion, okay? Actually, really $50 billion plus. Okay, that's what we're gonna spend because it's gonna pass, right? You know they're gonna pass it. I got questions, man. I got questions. We got a lot of problems here in America, and it seems like these politicians aren't really concerned about that. Again, I'm wondering why in the world is the left not outraged about this, because they say this talking point all the time. You know, hey, we need universal health care. We need universal daycare. We need all this stuff, right, that we have to spend money on, okay, to pay for, that these Democrats aren't even working on. They're working on sending that money to Ukraine instead. But I don't see the progressives screaming and crying about that, right? Why are we sending all this money to Ukraine when we need universal health care and universal daycare and all this other socialist stuff that they want? Again, I find it fascinating what the left chooses to be outraged about and what they don't choose to be outraged about. But hey, just remember, if you bring up the fact that we're spending money overseas to support war instead of trying to figure out our supply chain crisis here in the U.S. when it comes to baby formula and the shortage, okay, starving infants, just remember, that is a Putin talking point, according to the Democrats. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.